taking time and getting a refresher. Most of you are accomplished academicians, and you would have been teaching for some time. So maybe as we grow in our career, we do a lot of things by habit or by practice. What I would be doing here is bringing certain points which will help you, and I am open to your questions and suggestions so that we can collectively become better teachers. That is the objective of this session. This session is about teaching pedagogy. We'll understand what is teaching pedagogy. We'll look at the significance, the various approaches and methodologies to this pedagogy. I mean, what we will be doing is we'll try to understand what is it, what is the use or importance of it, and how we can apply it in our classroom. So keeping this in mind, can we move on to the next slide, ma'am? In the meantime, I would like to just add on a point which um, is missed in my introduction. That is, I am also qualified by the National Testing Agency in areas of teaching learning pedagogy and as well as tourism and hospitality under the annual refresher program in teaching, which is a test conducted by the national testing agencies for teachers of higher educational institutions. So let's have a look at the session objectives here. On this session, once you are through with this 1 hour's time, what various terms and concepts of teaching pedagogy, you will be able to understand and express its significance. You will be able to discuss on learning styles and teaching strategies. You will be able to practice some of the approaches. As I said, some, because some you may already have been doing, some you are going to learn in the session today, some your counterparts and maybe your colleagues and even myself might learn from you during this session. So this is what we will be able to do, and we will be able to elaborate on the teaching learning methodologies. What are the different methods and approaches towards teaching and learning? Can we move to the next slide, ma'am? Yeah. So this question here, what is pedagogy? I have put a answer to the question. Can somebody understand it and explain to me what is shown by the pictures here? Anyone? Can anyone just explain what you understand by the picture here? If you want, you can put it in the chat box also. Anyone? You may unmute and speak. On the other hand, you can also put it in the chat box. Yeah, Professor Dinesh, childhood. Okay. Anybody else? Well, since this is a very timed presentation, I'll not hold on this for long. I'll move on. So what is the picture indicating is, yes, as Professor Dinesh mentioned, childhood, yes, there is the picture of a child. The second picture, or the one in the middle, is an artistic representation. It is a work of art. And the third picture you can see is a picture which depicts science. So pedagogy literally translates into the art and science of teaching a child. Okay. Now you may think, why are we interested in art and science of teaching a child? No. What we are going to discuss today is more about teaching adults, which is maybe andragogy, but the science comes up from here. Hence, we call it teaching learning pedagogy. So, teaching is both an art and also there is a lot of science behind it. So, you can see that I have mentioned a definition there which determines as a phrase that a tutor must elicit response that demonstrates understanding. So this raises to a lot of questions. When you complete a class, how do you know that what you have tried to teach is learnt by the student? So this phrase is very important. You must extract a response from the learners which demonstrates or which satisfies the fact that there is knowledge transfer which has happened. Until and unless you have evaluated this, the session remains incomplete. Ma'am, can we move on? So, how is pedagogy an art and science? Correctly putting the theories into practice and building up on your teaching experiences. What you have learned over the years in the field, not just in the classroom. You know what you have learned. There are lots of things, lots of theories which we learn from textbooks, but when we apply, there is a lot of difference. So that is what we call as experience. So when you have experienced certain things, you are an expert, you explain better. So putting these experiences in a synchronized form, which helps to, balance with the theory and the practical approach, that is an art. Knowing what to do, knowing which are the experiences to bring in, and how that is going to help the session, that is science. So, the term pedagogy actually refers to the strategy of how educators teach in practice and theory, shaped by the teaching beliefs of a teacher and relates the interplay between culture and variety of methods of teaching, which literally means you need to have a variety of mix of different methods in one session. If your session is only about, lecture, you talk and students listen, or the other way, students talk and you listen, these are not going to be successful. Can we move to the next slide, ma'am? Yeah, again, I want to give all of you a few seconds. Please unmute and, you can talk about this particular point, but please mention why or what was it about the teacher that motivated you or that, captivated your mind. Who has inspired you from your past? Because that is what we want to do, inspire our students. So who was it who has inspired you? Please, you can put it in the chat box or you can unmute and speak. I'll give a couple of minutes here. All the participants can respond either through the chat or by unmuting. Yes, please. I am waiting. Yeah, Anaga, what? exactly you mean by teachers? Which teacher and what? Anybody else? Yes, Dr. Saurabh, Professor J.K. Sharma. But can you tell me why? Why was it that he motivated you? I am still waiting for at least one or two responses. There are about 55 computer teacher for your punctuality. Okay, for his or yours. TEACH, which reflects as learn. So that is why we say teaching and learning is a consecutive process or co-happening process. Yeah, I'm getting some more responses. Just let me quickly look at that. Okay, I am seeing Jhansi Rani, your seventh standard teacher, Professor Pandit, University of Pune, for her teaching techniques. Fine. So we have seen plenty of responses here now. I think we'll continue with Dr. Saurabh. Vast knowledge. Knowledge always inspires. I can appreciate that fact. Can we move on to the next slide, ma'am? Can we move on to the next slide? Yes, fine. We have come to the next slide. Again, I want all the participants to, read this. There is a very interesting quote, and there are four types of teachers which are listed here. So, an average teacher talks about inspires. The best one inspires because he or she is
Excuse me, sir.
the giver of truth, as per Bruce Lee. He is but a guide. He points into the direction, and each student must find out the truth for himself. And in reality, the truth will differ for each student. That means knowledge has multiple aspects, and it is the logic with which you are pursuing and the outcome will vary for each person. So, teacher cannot decide what is the right knowledge for you, but he can point you in the right direction. You acquire the right knowledge for yourself. Can we move on to the next slide? Next slide, ma'am.
Sir,
Can we
I've
move on
changed
to
the
the
slide,
next
sir.
slide,
Is it not visible?
please?
Sir,
You
I
have
have
changed?
changed the slide, sir. Is it not visible, sir? Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay, okay. Fine, 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 ma'am. No problem. Uh, so now let us look at the need for pedagogy. What is the importance? The importance of pedagogy in teaching. Actually, you see, there are two slides which both are talking about the same thing. So we can move on to the next slide also, ma'am. So you see, you will find more participative classrooms.
Dear participants, a resource person will join us soon. He has some network disturbances. We are very sorry for the inconvenience. He will join us soon. Thank you. Excuse me, sir.
Yeah. Tell me, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
We can continue, sir. We can
Yeah,
continue,
ma'am.
sir.
Move on to the slide of Bloom's taxonomy, please. Yeah. Right.
This one, sir.
So
Yes.
here you can see. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, this one. This one. Correct. So all the participants, I think you can see here the basic teaching skill will help the student to remember things. This is remember what land did Christopher Columbus discover? This kind of questions, which actually do not require a lot of knowledge or ability. It's just your ability to remember. When we go beyond that, we try to make the students understanding mathematical concepts, understanding the cause of a war, and understanding why the outcome was and how it was so. These kind of things are the next level. Now we move on to the third, that is the application level. Certain formulas to solve certain problems, and you come out with solutions. So I have these ingredients, what I need to do to make a different product. So this kind of knowledge is the third level, that is application. After that, we go to analyze. We have two different methods to solve a problem. Which is the easier method? Which is the faster method? Which is the cheaper method?
Excuse me,
So,
sir.
you know, yes, ma'am.
Sir, your voice is breaking at times, sir. We are not able to hear you at times. Can
Okay, but I think right now my signal is full. Is it okay now?
Yeah, it's fine, sir. But at times, your voice is breaking.
Okay.
That's why, sir. I just want to let you know. That's why.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yes,
am
sir.
sorry about that. I told you actually today I am in a very different location and my network is very bad here.
No issues, sir. You can just continue, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. The next one is where we try to evaluate. Two, three students have performed a task. You are going to evaluate whose task is the best with logical reasoning on why you are giving more marks to which student. That is evaluation. And when I am talking, I am giving an example of what you do as a teacher, but the students will be able to evaluate the performance of different machines and come out with solutions on which machine is the best one for their purpose. So that is the evaluation level. And finally, when we talk, the last level is which what we all want to achieve is the creation level. So I have got 10 machines, but none of them are giving me the exact output. So I add certain features and I create a new machine for myself. That is what Bloom's taxonomy tells me, the different stages of learning. So we all look at higher order. Creating and evaluating is the target. Can we move to the next slide, ma'am? What are the factors affecting pedagogy? The learning styles, the educational system under which you are teaching, and of course the field of study. Can we move on to the next slide? Yeah. So first, we should all, work towards under knowing your learners and their learning types. So I have shared there are four different types of learners: visual, somebody who learns by seeing; auditory learners who learn by hearing; a read write learner who will need written content. They read through it and they write it down, they remember. A kinesthetic learner who moves about, who does the thing, then he learns. So if you actually want to find out what kind of learner you are, there is a link given here, a website with a link. You can copy it down. It's a simple test, about 20 questions, 10 minutes. It will give you an idea of what kind of learner you are. You can ask your students also to do this. Next. Yeah. So as I said, please find out what is your learning style, whether you are a visual learner, a musical auditory learner, a verbal learner, hearing, a kinesthetic learner using your body, hands, and sense of touch, a logical learner for whom numbers make a difference, a learner in a group, a social learner, or a solitary learner. So you find out and then you can apply. Next, yeah. So this slide, I will not, spend a lot of time on this slide. These are about different learning theories. There is a theory of behaviorism, cognitivism, humanism, and constructivism. And these theories are actually telling you the different kinds of ways you can develop these particular skills in students. So you can read more about these theories if you find these particular things interesting. Please read more. These are all different theories which will help to gain knowledge of these four basic areas. Can we move on, ma'am? Yeah. So you see, there are very famous authors whose studies also you can pick up. For behaviorism, there are Ivan Pavlov, John Watson, like that. For constructivism, Lev Vygotsky, Jean Piaget. So many authors who have mentioned. The key concepts are also mentioned there for you to just understand the key theory. What is the key theory? Each one is all about, and what is the role of the teacher under each theory. So you can first identify the type of students you have and then decide which kind of learning or behavior theory you want to apply. Have a look at the various points in the slide, please. I am giving you a minute so that you can read through it. Can we move on, madam? Yeah. So there are different approaches to the teaching learning pedagogy. You see here there is a constructivist approach where you construct based on one point another. Then there is a collaborative approach where two three thoughts come together and work. There is an inquiry based where we experiment or we ask questions and then you try to find out more. It is like digging the soil. We don't know what is there inside. We dig and we keep finding out, and then based on our findings, then there is a reflective one where there is a lot of thought process. You think and you come out with solutions. This is applicable for puzzles and such things. And there is an integrative approach where multiple students may try different things. When then you integrate all the different things and come out. Can we move to the next slide, ma'am? Yeah. So I have mentioned here. I will just take example of one or two of these. The student centered constructive approach is student centered. It is built on past knowledge. Instructor or the facilitator will just be actually a facilitator. He will not get involved in the process much. The students will be learning by doing. It may be slow paced. So likewise other different approaches. For example, if you look at the collaborative approach, it involves teamwork. There are different pools in different abilities of learners. Teachers and students may not work in teams. The teacher may just keep himself aloof and watch all the teams working to us or he can also be a part of the team. So enables the use of different teaching practices with different groups. For example, one group may be discussing, one group may actually be doing a demonstration, another group may be involved in a PowerPoint presentation, and then collectively you sit and discuss the outcomes. Can we move on to the next slide, ma'am? Yeah. So these are some of the different books and studies that is available for all those who are interested in knowing more about these different theories of teaching learning. They are excellent articles, and you know write-ups on these topics. So you can make a note of this, anyone who is interested for further reading. I'll just hold it on for a second or so and then we can move on to the next slide. Yes, Professor, I'll do that. Next. Yeah. So I have just explained, some strategies of collaborative learning. Think, pair, and share. So you can put two in a group, let them think and share what they. Then you can catch up. A lot of people sitting together, catching up on what each one has learned or understood. Team based learning. Divide the things into teams. Ask them to come up with their thoughts, and then you add. Give a case study. A fishbowl debate is also an option. Leave the topic and let them have a debate in groups. So the next slide, ma'am. This is a very important slide. I want all of you to look at it very carefully. Please go through this slide very carefully. You see here there are two types of learning: passive learning and active learning. And as I was saying, you see the lecture, the reading, the audio visual, these are all passive learning which can help in only about 30% of retention of the lessons. Whereas discussion, learning by doing, and teaching others have an astonishingly 90% level of retention. So what we need to do is we need to make our class more into the active and get out from the passive learning process or the passive teaching process. So please, you know, look at this slide and try to understand the beauty of this slide. Can we move on, ma'am? What are the pedagogical skills? Traditionally, teachers needed good communication. They needed to be adaptable. They needed to have collaborative skills. They needed to have inclusivity, not have any preference or mindset against some communities, caste, or other things as such. And they needed to have compassion. You needed to have a thought of kindness. But today, let us look at the skills for modern teachers. There is a lot of change in the current day. A teacher must have a storytelling ability. He or she must be open for questions because today there is abundant information available on the internet. Students, before you start a topic, will have 10 different questions in their mind, and you are responsible to answer them. So, even if you don't know an answer, do not, lose control of the class. You say that that's a nice question. I haven't come across this one yet, but yeah, I have noted it down. Write it down. Tell the student that you will check and get back to him or her in the next class. And please do that. Otherwise, you tend to lose value. And you can also open it in the class. Has anyone come across this? If any other student answers it, appreciate the guy and learn from that guy also. So that is very important. No egos. A teacher must be social, he must be on the social media, keeping in touch with technology, and you must be a geek. That means you must understand modern communication, gadgets, short lingos. The SMS language is what prevails among the students. If you don't understand, half the time you will be running from pillar to post trying to figure out what the students are saying. Preparation, organization, tolerance, and commitment are more of the traditional ones. But these four skills, which I said: innovative, social, technological enthusiast and geek are very important for modern teachers. Next slide, ma'am. Yeah. Now the question is, how do I improve my pedagogical skills? What is it that I can do? Well, you can review the student evaluations, try to understand if a student has done well, why he has done well. You see if a student has done well and you have mostly been using a visual teaching process, let's say like a PowerPoint, then possibly that is a visual learner. Just check those students who have not done well. Maybe the auditory ones or the kinesthetic ones have not performed well. So next time you make a mix of your teaching session where it contains a mix of all the three different activities and then evaluate whether all the three type of students are doing well. So that is one. You can also discuss with your colleagues, ask them how they do certain things, how you handle difficult situations, so on. You attend professional conferences like, there are conferences on teaching learning skills. You can attend the FDPs on such programs. You can consult with experts like myself, who I am still, I called myself an expert, but I am also in the learning process. I would be happy to share what I have, and I would also look forward to learning from you people. Keep up with studies. You read. The more you read, you can gain more knowledge. Ask for additional training. That is your right. You must ask for regular and constant upgradation for skills in these areas for being a good teacher. And please, please, please keep updated with new technology and gadgets. If you are not in sync with the current generation, then you will not be able to handle them in any way. They will be very far outsmarting you, and your sessions will be very boring. So you must keep in touch with technology. That is very important. Can we move on, ma'am? Next slide. Yeah. Now, how do you use your skills? I am gaining a lot of skills. How do I use it? Start communicating about your skills. Be proactive. Inform students what is expected from them, what they are going to be doing. Try out the different teaching styles. Let the students lead the sessions. Ask them to lead. Give them the opportunity to come out on the dais and conduct a class. Make it by turns. Let no student feel that he can escape, and let no student feel that you are partial to some. Involve everybody. Ask them to decide on their own method of teaching. Make the classrooms more inclusive. Don't be a one-way speaker. Be a good listener. Give students space to express themselves. Divide the class into a session into two halves. One half, if necessary, where you do as per your choice, and the balance 20 minutes, the students are free to express themselves. Identify the different learning traits of the students. Focus on what is interesting there for them, and try to come out with a solution where everyone is involved. Do not be a teacher, instead be a learning facilitator. Help your students to learn, be the guiding light, show them the way, let them find the truth for themselves. Can we move on to the next slide, ma'am? Yeah. So some of the innovative teaching methods I am listing here: project-based learning, flipped classrooms are gaining popularity in these days. Crosswords, quiz, MCQs. You can design some, or you can ask your students to design some, and others can solve them. Experimentations and experimental learning is very important. Activity based. Every class must have activities. Simulation is also uh, becoming one of the more acclaimed methods nowadays. Virtual labs and blended learning, a mix of any of these methods. So all these different methods are open for you all to try and come up with interesting solutions for yourself. The teaching learning delivery process. Can we have the next slide, ma'am? Yeah. So this process should be something like this. You set the objectives, the instruction and delivery and self-learning to match the objectives, include activities, interactions, exercises, practices, and other projects and so on. Then you evaluate against your objectives, take the feedback about the learning, apply this feedback, and reset your learning objectives. You can repeat it for each topic, each chapter, each credit point that you have, and for the entire course. There is absolutely nothing to stop you from trying this for each and every session. Can we move on, ma'am? Yeah. So there are some points which is worthy to keep note of. I am again listing these points because I have felt that many of the sessions the students lose interest, which can be very quickly brought back by any of these. The icebreaker. You must have icebreakers which will actually um, break the monotony of the class and bring the students back. Maybe for a minute or so, but it must be there. The introduction. I always say there is a win method. If you had seen this presentation, win method means what, interest, and need. At the beginning, I had listed the objectives. Then the next two slides, I had shown you what is the interesting thing about this, how it is going to help you. And I had given, some slides where I had asked you to list down a teacher who had inspired you. That was the interest part. The need part, we have discussed how it is going to be helpful for you both personally and professionally. So this is what you must remember. Win, what, interest, and need. Explain this at the beginning of each session so that the students are focused and they have an interest to it. They also have a need to the subject. Your delivery must be structured and planned. Break it into steps so that it is easy for them to understand. Step at a time, reinforce, stimulate, and engage, and evaluate and summarize. So, these are all some of the things that you must remember. Can we have the next slide, ma'am? Yeah. So, as teachers, you must keep your energy levels high. Don't be predictable. Always do different things and do things differently. Every session is a new one. So let the students not come into some uniform system that sir will come first, he will ask questions, then he'll start explaining the new topic. No, break this down, change it as per your convenience and as per your mood. Pretend to be angry, throw questions if you want, be very friendly. When the students are expecting you to check them on their homework, just forget it one day. So next day when they are less prepared, just suddenly ask them and chuck one or two out of the class if required. That is what you should be doing. Totally unpredictable. Okay, do things differently, be innovative, be creative, involve students, ask them to do things, and you start being an observer more rather than a practitioner. Let them lead the sessions. Can we move on, ma'am? Yeah. Be yourself. Don't try to imitate or inculcate anybody else. Just I have seen people want to sometimes be like this teacher they have seen in some movie. No, don't do all that. You yourself are the best teacher. Be yourself, be honest, be passionate, accept your limitations, Learn from students, acknowledge their achievements, and acknowledge it in front of all. If you have to admonish anybody, do it privately, but if you have to acknowledge the achievement, celebrate it. Keep yourself updated with constant research. Prepare for each session like it's the first time. You never know what to expect, and expect the unexpected. That is what I already said. So, these are some of the important tips and points that I had. Ma'am, can we go on to the next slide? Yeah. So now I am open for questions. You may either type the question in the chat box